Welcome to another episode of the Market Makers in Middle East and Africa podcast. I am your host, Abrar Hussain. Today, I speak to Andrew Jackson, CEO at Inception AI and Chief Responsible AI Officer at G42. Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So, Andy, you have a very interesting profile where you have a doctorate in technology and you are an entrepreneurial executive as well. And now you are leading one of the very known and leading AI companies. So tell us about your story.
My story starts, I guess, early in academia. So I was very nerdy in school and I really liked technology. And I went from a degree in business information systems to a master's in networks and distributed systems in Trinity, and then on to a PhD in Trinity, and then followed by a postdoc. And a second degree in statistics. So I did a lot of university, but it was really good, a really great grounding in terms of the concepts and also the application of really advanced topics. And doing research was really transformative in terms of my framing the way I think scientifically. So that was really helpful across my entire kind of executive cycle. But I mean, my postdocs were in France and INRIA, which is a big research center there. And I also visited Princeton, which was also really interesting during that time. But I also worked when I was doing my PhD, I also worked for the European Union doing research and kind of consolidating research across the European Union think tanks. So it was a mixture of academic partners and industrial partners. So on the academic side, it was like 12 different universities all contributing. And then on the commercial side, there was IBM and Siemens. So from a very early on stage, I understood how to take the ideas from research and then make them commercial. And this really kind of framed the rest of my career. So I then went on to work for Susquehanna, which is a big US proprietary trading fund. And I did a lot of high frequency, low latency trading. So that's essentially taking machine learning models, developing those, training those, and putting them into production, and making money. So we did this. We're probably one of the biggest traders in Europe at the time, and it was a really interesting time for that industry specifically, but also for me personally, because I could kind of exercise all the stuff that I'd learned for many years and trained to learn, and put it into real use and see money being made and see how it was actually used in the real world. And it was phenomenal training for me. I went there and I moved to the Middle East and started working for Palantir. And it was using the same kind of ideas, using the same methodologies, but bringing it into more of a government space, and especially around security. So we did that for a number of years. And then, again, it's taking kind of very difficult problems to solve and really bringing data and machine learning to bear to solve them, including, massive searches, etc. So it was that kind of big data phase, if you will, but bringing in that big data, machine learning and algorithms together to build solutions for, some of the world's most difficult problems to solve. So that was a very interesting period in my life. And then I was at the right place at the right time and at the formation of G42. So I was one of the early kind of founding members of the G42 team. And so I've been on that rocket ship ever since. So I started off building, working on maybe the core business, which is now Presight. So I worked on that early days and then did some investment did a lot of AI investment work for the group. And luckily then recently kind of joined Inception and taken over the CEO role in Inception and kind of helped grow the Inception business from what was in its earliest days a research institute for artificial intelligence and pretty one of the first of its kind. And Inception itself has gone through a massive change since the beginning of G42, and it was the earliest G42 company. So it was the inception of G42, if you will. And in the early days, it was an academic research kind of institute. So the same way that DeepMind is to Google, Inception is for G42. And, we have multiple patents, over 300 papers, and we were the team that really seeded the university MBZU AI. And we, to this day, remain very close partners of MBZU AI. They're a phenomenal institution and a real world first, yet another world first for UAE. But Inception specifically has gone through a bit of an evolution. So we started off this as a research institute, but now we've become a commercial company. So this is where we are today. And I'm back to where I started, right? Commercializing research in the AI space now. So I think it's kind of a loop for me that I've gone from research to commercial and then back to research and commercial again. So it's been an amazing journey. I suppose a lot of my life I've been here in UAE, so I've been blessed to be in this country, watch it grow, and also watch this business, G42, grow over the last number of years, which has been extremely, amazing to be part of. I'm very proud to be part of it, and I'm also blessed to be part of it. It's an amazing company, and we're all very lucky in G42 to be part of the story.
Yeah. I mean, very interesting story, Andy, and mainly the name Inception is like very, very interesting as well. So what is the vision and the mission of the company, and what kind of products or solutions, you're trying to make? As you said, look, you have 300, research papers where, you're trying to commercialize them, and how you're planning, or how you, visualize to impact the industries.
Yeah, I mean, let's just kind of take a step back, I guess. Well, I guess nobody really thought much about, AI until ChatGPT came out. And then all of a sudden it was a revelation to everybody. Yeah. But we've been spending the last, I've spent 20 years of my life working on this kind of stuff. So it was not new to me. And I was amazed to see it was new to everybody else. But I guess, when all this came out, people were like, okay, what do I do with this AI? I know it's important. I know it's interesting. I know it's going to be transformative, but how does it apply to me? So I think the first year of Inception was really trying to educate the kind of, I guess, the population around us, our market around us, saying, hey, you want to do an AI project. What is it that what's your business about? How do I apply this? So I've come to the realization kind of early on that, you need to kind of sell people a product rather than kind of an idea of AI, or kind of, because when you look at AI, in some ways, like electricity. So you don't buy electricity, you buy lights, you buy a cooker, you buy applications that use the technology or use the electricity. It's the same thing with AI, I believe. You need to kind of essentially give the application that uses that kind of electricity. Yeah. And that's what we've done. We've kind of focused on, again, the strategy was to align with UAE strategy and UAE strengths, and use that as our kind of springboard, if you will. And if I look at UAE, there's many strengths, but the ones I kind of picked out to kind of focus this company on were investment. Mm-hmm. Abu Dhabi is the capital of capital. Energy, ADNOC, it's our national oil company and has a relationship with G42 already. And I guess healthcare, we've got M42 as a company. And they were the kind of core, let's say, areas of the country that I thought were, let's say, world leading. There was many others, but they were the core ones I kicked off with. And really, we focused our kind of development in those areas. So we started off looking at energy. We worked with our sister company, AIQ, which is a pre-site business. And we started kind of looking at how we could apply AI to energy. And we were very lucky and honored to work with our AIQ colleagues to build Energy AI, which was released earlier in the year by Dr. Jabral Sultan. And we that's our first thing that we got out the door. At the same time, we're also working on investment with Mubadala, which is a huge project in itself. And we've released, I think the news came out on that project recently enough. Now, besides those two, we've built a genomics model, which we're working with our colleagues in M42 at, and we're trying to bring that to market. And that's the focus on that, is to really build something that towards precision medicine. So instead of buying generic pills, that they're customized for you. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of a step change in how technology is being applied to medicine. So these are the kind of areas that we thought were super interesting, and that's the strategy of the business, right? Mm-hmm. So this UAE essentially is the core of our strategy, and the technology is the driver of the business. And really, we sit at the center of G42 because we tend to try and work with our sister companies, AIQ and Energy, M42 on the healthcare, and we kind of work with Preside on various other bits as well. But they're the core pieces. Now, we've also done a number of other projects, which is let's say less domain specific, but more general for corporates, because we also thought, okay, mm-hmm. Being too specific is hard to grow as a business. So we also looked at kind of horizontal capabilities. We're also doing a lot more in the corporate space in terms of, at a board level. And there's many other initiatives that we have in terms of R&D that are going to come into these products, but that's the kind of general product areas that we're looking at. So,
mm-hmm. Perfect. No, thank you. And you mentioned about, 3 industries, specifically oil and gas, and then financial services, and I think health. I can relate to two, financial services and health. I think in both areas, AI will play a very important role. You specifically touched on health, which is genomics, medicine as per, your needs or, as per your body or requirements. What other areas or how you see, from a general patient perspective or a personal perspective, how AI will change health? How it will affect doctors. I think it's a big impact, be it, on diagnosis or be it on the medicine. And then we can come to the financial services.
But it's funny, on my way here, my wife was on the phone to me and our cat's sick. And she went to the vet and she got an X-ray. I think right now she's uploading the X-ray to ChatGPT to see what ChatGPT is saying against what the vet's saying. So I do feel like AI is absolutely transformative in this area. Where it is right now is only at the beginning. I mean, customer service, when you call the hospital or call the clinic, this is something that we're actively working to transform right now. The procurement process in terms of medical supplies, we're actively transforming that process right now. And that's going to be something that we're going to release very soon. So I think we're on the cusp of extreme transformation in the healthcare space, just on the kind of, let's say, corporate side of things. Then if you look at the diagnostics, there's been diagnostic tools for years. It's the confluence of the diagnostic tools, which kind of look at something and kind of look at some and maybe point out an area on a diagnostic graph or an X-ray or something like that. But turning that into language and speaking it back to you is the kind of cool new piece that's really interesting. And I think, it'll support doctors. I don't think it'll ever replace doctors, but it'll absolutely support doctors and give them a lot more bandwidth to do a lot more. But I do feel like that the healthcare area is just such a big area. I know that G42 is going to do a lot more in this area. Our colleagues in M42 have done a phenomenal job and continue to do an amazing job in the space, and we will support them to develop out more and more on the AI front. They've done to do some things themselves, of course, and they've done a lot themselves, but we're going to do a lot more. And I think that's going to be a very interesting space to watch.
And Andy, you have a background in trading, you mentioned, and
yes.
And then you're building products for financial services. How this whole space will change? Investing, trading, finding companies which will grow. So how do you see AI will, change this space, and how a normal, investor or retail investor has to adapt to do it?
So I don't think there's any one right way to do investment. There's many different ways people make money. But I do think in private markets, where we're looking at private markets because we feel it's the easiest place to apply the technology right now. But I certainly think it's going to, improve the decision-making process because, to make an investment takes a long time. To do a private equity investment or to do something like that takes a long time. And it's lots of people working together, lots of documents that are shared over a long period of time. I think speeding that process up and making it a lot more specific is really interesting, and supporting the decision makers who need to read all this documentation and then make a decision. It's challenging, right? So if you're in an IC, an investment committee, to process all of this data that's been produced by many service providers, etc., and the target company that you're investing in, I mean, in a direct investment case, that's a huge amount of work, and it can go wrong in certain places. There can be errors in things. It's slow. So optimizing this process down can ensure that you've got the proper information to make decisions. You can do a lot more, holistic understanding of the data that you're seeing by using kind of technology like RAG to go out and search the internet and kind of give you the latest on the company that you're looking at, or maybe comparable companies, or maybe competitive companies, or looking at the macro environment. Is this the right environment to invest in? Will the environment change? These are the kind of the decisions that we want to optimize and help our customers optimize. We are looking at public markets as well. We're certainly looking at that area, but there's so much in public markets, like corporate actions or something that we're exploring with another partner at the moment, and how we improve all of these things, because there's so much scope to improve with the technology, with the new kind of technology that's come out in LLMs and I guess the broader AI space. There's so much to do. It's actually the hardest thing is narrowing it down to, it's focus is the hardest part right now. Focus, because everyone's trying to figure it out. We've we've tried to even trying to focus in on the areas that we have. They're just worlds of stuff on themselves. Yeah. So it's the hardest thing is to figure out what the right thing to do is, what's the highest value thing in those spaces, and investment is just so big.
So big, yeah. And you mentioned on LLM models,
yes,
right?
Sir.
Which many companies have done LLM models. Some of them are very successful. I saw that Inception is doing the models in specific languages. Tell us about it. What's the idea behind it, and what you're trying to achieve for the UAE or for the general population?
Yeah, sure. So we started. I mean, obviously, OpenAI, ChatGPT, its most famous model. Anthropic does another famous company in America. There's companies like you've seen this big. DeepSeek coming out of China, which is big news as well. So, and in Europe, you've seen Mistral come out with some models. So, I guess what we wanted to do here in the UAE is focus on, I think, again, things that are more specific to us, which was Arabic, and then we have a huge, Indian population in UAE. So we also looked at Hindi, and we built models in these areas. So, Jace and Nanda were the two models we worked on. Because the rest of the world, they're in the US, they're going to focus on very much English models, and DeepSeek also did a lot more in English, right? So, taking a different route and building up a different kind of, competency is what we aimed at. Now, obviously, our friends in TII did Falcon as well, which was very, very well received internationally. But our focus was really to kind of double down on kind of, let's say, alternatives, doing something different, and really bringing the cultures and embedding the cultures of this region into those models. And we've also done Kazakh, for example. We've also working on other languages as well. But the whole idea is that we would kind of do something slightly different, do something that's kind of novel, and really do something that kind of protects the culture, the language, and do something sovereign, right? Something that is for the country and specific to the country. And this was our goal. And we've worked very closely with our colleagues at MBZO AI on this. And they've been instrumental to bring that research knowledge into this process that we've worked with them on. So we've worked hand in glove with them, and they're taking on more and more of this responsibility over time to help us build these models and do it as a collaborative force, because, this is, it's a really big game to play. And the more collaborative we can be in this space, the better off we all are in terms of this. But the whole, reason we did it is to build a sovereign capability, to demonstrate a sovereign model, and to demonstrate a different way to think about things, and a, regional specific way, and to show other countries as well how to do it, right? We want to be a beacon, not just, we're here for the people of UAE, the people of India, etc., but to show everybody else, hey, this is how you do it. Here's the playbook of how you do it. So this is also kind of an AI for good play, where we can kind of, show countries that maybe are a little bit further behind. This is not undoable. Like, you can catch up. You can build your own sovereign models. We're here to help. We're here to show you the way. And we're obviously learning ourselves the whole time. We're always working with new partners, trying to understand how to do things better, and how to work with others. UAE is an open country. It's incredibly collaborative, and always has been, and probably always will be. But it's that kind of, again, embodiment of the UAE culture, to be open, to work with others, even internally, but also externally. We've worked with other model builders as well. We've shared data with them. We've explained what we're doing, and we've tried to help them with their Arabic. So it's always funny for an Irish guy to speak about Arabic models. We try and be as supportive as we can to our friends and colleagues, and bring really, not just to be self-referential and self-focused, but to help others. By helping others, we learn a lot ourselves.
And I saw a trend that there is a lot of focus to build sovereign models, right, with sovereign capabilities, because I think a lot of businesses and individuals share a lot of data with the models. So I think it's good for the countries or for the people to kind of use the sovereign models, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of turmoil in the world. We see it, on the news all the time. So having a sovereign capability, having a sovereign model is useful, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't use models that from other jurisdictions, from the US, etc. And we're obviously very aligned with the US. We're partners with various US companies, and we've our leadership has been to the US recently and done big announcements there. But having our own little models as well, and building that out, and building that sovereign capability means that you can use other people's stuff, but you have your own capability as well, that you can kind of rely on, and you can build functions that you have more control over then.
Yeah. Andy, you spoke about a lot of potential in AI, right? But I see that there might be a lot of challenges, and we see a lot of challenges with companies adopting AI.
Yeah.
What are the biggest barriers you see, and how you're helping the government, how you're helping the customers to kind of navigate those challenges? I think one of the area I see is definitely data, right? The qualified or the clean data, and then the useful data. So what other challenges you see?
I think adoption, right? People know it's interesting. They know they should be doing something in it, but they don't know where to start. So we're doing a lot of education programs, and not like we have the university, MBZUAI, who are going to educate, and they've got an executive program, which is phenomenal. But what we're trying to do is educate like those people who are, let's say, outside of the schooling framework, because school isn't also, they're doing a great job in the education sector to kind of educate and bring AI. And in my own kids' school, they're doing a great job there. But there's a segment there between school and I guess, work that really needs more support. And we've done the kind of a program called Qudra Tech, where we work with Emiratis to basically upskill them and also give them a job in AI, to really kind of not just learn something academically, but actually work on it in practice. So this is a huge program that we're very proud of. And it's ongoing, but I think that's one challenge. The kind of understanding is one challenge, and then the adoption into like knowing where to use it and how much to use it and what the implications of using it and the security and the safety around that. Like, so we just talked about sending data in. There's certainly like personally identifiable information. So when you send data to models, it's stored somewhere. It may be used in training again, and it may come out in different ways. And there's been various news stories around that. So, I guess with a different cat of the Chief Responsible AI Officer for G42, we really focus on how to not just build the technology, but build it correctly and build it responsibly. So when we build this technology, that it does the right things at the right time for the right people. And, I think that's the key message that we want to send in that area.
Yeah, this is where I think you briefly touched based on it, that as a Chief Responsible AI Officer at G42, one is the AI innovation, which is fast, but at the same time, there are ethical consideration, there are compliances. How you balance those?
It's tough because there's always pressure to do new things, but there's also, if anything goes wrong, then it's on us as well, right? So I mean, at the moment, we have hired a bunch of people for this area that have set up for the foundation, etc. So we've got ethicists, or AI ethicists, who are now working on this. Dr. Laura Eel has just come on board, and we're working with the university. Again, their researchers are getting involved in this. Really driving this piece it takes a lot of time. It does take it. I mean, I have to spend time. I've got to go to these summits. I've got to represent this. We're actually writing reports right now on what we're doing in this responsible AI area. We've got a leader with me as well. Adele O'Hurley, he's working with me on the responsible AI component in G42, and she's helping me lead that component. But it's certainly a complex thing to balance both. And everyone I talk to who's in this space, we've got great colleagues in OpenAI and Mistral, for example, and Cohere, Scale AI, a bunch of this. We have this kind of community that are all doing this, and everyone finds it difficult to balance the both factors of going faster, doing more, making money, but also having the responsible AI piece and thinking ahead about safety. Because we also released our safety framework, actually, which was a commitment that we made at the Seoul Summit. With 12 other kind of big AI companies, and we all kind of worked together, actually collaboratively on building out our safety frameworks, which essentially means that you can kind of understand when your AI models are getting too powerful or getting to a place where they could actually be used in a negative way. So we've published all that work. It's all online. It's on our websites, and it was a very collaborative effort, and it was very well. I guess, accepted by the community. So we were very, very happy and very proud of that as well.
Annie, we spoke about AI and industries. Now coming to UAE, right? There is a lot of focus to drive innovation in UAE or from UAE, established companies here. What advantages you see for AI companies to set up in UAE or to do innovation in UAE and how they can compete globally?
Well, I think UAE is a sandbox for innovation. There's so much that's happening here. There's so much support for a startup. I mean, there's so much support now from our colleagues in kind of places like Hub 71, for example. Adio, who was a great partner to us as well. There's so much support to set this stuff up. AI is one of these areas that you can really leverage very quickly. I think the biggest moat at the moment is data, right? Having the right data sets is the biggest issue. But again, UAE is probably in the top 4 countries in the world now that working on AI, right? So I think we are pretty much way up there in terms of our capability, our appetite to do it, and also the acceptance from the broader kind of environment and government and business world here, that everyone, I mean, compared to conversations we're having with European partners, people are much more open to it here because it comes from essentially a kind of a broad acceptance that this is the future, this is where things are at. And I think people in UAE have a bit more acceptance and of new ideas, new risks, new opportunities, and they can kind of navigate that much more easy than kind of, let's say, slower moving economies that are outside of here. UAE is a very special place where really interesting things can happen, and you can bring that from here to the rest of the world much easier than maybe other countries.
Mm-hmm. Andy, my last question.
Sure.
How do you see AI, what's your vision for AI, and how do you see AI changing society, business, and how do you envision it?
Well, I think a lot of people speak about AGI and ASI basically, which is much more transformative, but I'm very much focused on the kind of shorter term, to be honest. I do see kind of a future where, AI solves our biggest problems, and really that's a really big vision. And I do subscribe to it 100%. I do subscribe to it, but I'm very focused on the kind of the here and now. How can we take the technology as is? And even if all the R&D stopped, we'd spend years trying to just apply what we have right now. So I think on one hand, I think there's so much more innovation coming, but it's hard to conceptualize. I mean, self-driving cars have been going to get self-driving next year, in the next 2 or 3 years, for the last 10 years, right? So I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going to be transformative. I do see it becoming, it's now mainstream. It's everywhere. Yeah. Everyone talks about it. I talk to, my kids use it. My wife uses it, what you're saying, in terms of diagnosis. But it's just pervasive now. It's everywhere. And I think people are just trying to figure out what's the best use of it. I don't think people are going to be doing as much search anymore. People are just going straight to AI now. With that culture of, searching for something is changing or has changed. And it's changing super fast. And I don't think people understand the rate of which this is going to change and how quickly people will adopt this, because it's so easy. You talk to it and, you speak to it, and it gives you answers. And I do believe it's going to be absolutely transformative. And I think UAE is much further ahead than many other countries in terms of adoption. Because it's in people's psyche, it's in people's minds. People talk about it a lot. People use it a lot more here. And I do think that the vision here is within the next year.
And even I have seen this, that one thing I can subscribe is it increases your productivity in a significant way, right? Be it you are a business or you are an individual. I go to, the models and see, do a presentation for me. It does the presentation, read this contract for me and tell me if there is some anomalies, right? So you become very productive if you're using it. I think same applies for the business. Once they start using it, they become more competitive and they are ahead in the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the big thing that we're seeing now is adding more context to the query. So, you ask a query without any, clear understanding of the context, then you get a general answer back. But the more contextual you can make the query, the more specific the response. And this is where we're putting a lot of work into making sure that the queries are just so much more accurate that go in, and we get so much of a stronger response. And also we're doing a lot more autonomous work. So in our R&D labs at the moment, we're not just getting a query response. We're just saying, hey, just go figure this problem out for me and just get it done.
Wow.
And that's it's something that we have right now. So for my board meeting, for example. I could say, go figure out all the questions my board are going to ask me, do all the research, give me all the answers. So when the board comes to me, I can just say, here's the answer, here's the answer, here's the answer. So I've done all the research, so these are the things, this autonomous behavior, which is literally here right now, which we're kind of putting into our products and stitching it in right now, is for me really interesting. And I think that's the future, is this more autonomous behavior that frees me up to think about other things, right? I can think more strategically, I can do more things, I can be more active, I can focus on my business, I can just really kind of take away the things that I would have spent a lot of time at, a lot of focus at, a lot of energy on, make the machine do it, right? And now my business is a lot more agile, is a lot more productive, is hopefully is a lot more profitable, and is more resilient as well.
Perfect. I mean, it's very interesting to talk. So thank you very much, Andy.
No, thank you for
to talk to you, and thank you for coming.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity.